Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is Antichrist Arrives, Money Stopped. I've got some really good information for you today, so I encourage you to stay to the end. All right, first of all, this comes to us from Jason Meeks. This is about the fifth dream he's had that I put on. I think God is using him to send information to Prophecy Club folks. Now, he's a graduate of Leslie's Train the Prophets, a good guy, and I believe he's hearing from God. So he says, this is entitled Antichrist Money Stopped. He said, in the dream, myself and some other Christians had traveled out of town. We're all staying at a regular hotel or motel. The church as a whole in America was going underground. Somehow I knew it was just before serious persecution. We decided to go check out a patriot expert in evasion and concealment. I thought it best to check it out myself to see if these techniques and training were actually useful and easy to learn for a layman, worth the time and expense. I was impressed with him and knew he was competent. Went back to the hotel to gather a group together and to go to his camp. I was lying on the bed and watching TV. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When the TV cut to a blue screen in the upper left corner giving the station and location. It was saying WV, which is telling me I was in West Virginia. I was watching a local television station. News broke in saying all that the money was no longer any good and that as of now, this very moment, it was worthless and would not be accepted anywhere. If you wanted to pay for things, you had to download an app on your smartphone. This is the same thing Chris Reed said, the same thing I wrote in my book, Miss the Mark, same thing we've been talking about now, at least 5 years, okay? The new digital currency is coming and it's going to be a part of your cell phone. So if you wanted to pay for things, you had to download an app on your smartphone. I knew this was the beginning of the beast system or the mark of the beast. The phone app was just temporary, however. This app had access to everything in your life, total control. The hotel phone rang. The manager said, our money we'd paid to check into the room is now no longer accepted and would have to either leave or download the app. I told him we were leaving. The woman who handed me the phone was a new Christian and asked if we should download the app, and I started telling her no, and here's why. A report came on the TV saying a new man, this is the same thing Ken Peters heard, the same thing several others had heard. A new man was coming to power and had started the money exchange. Okay, so this is the Antichrist, and he's saying that when he comes on the scene, he's going to start the money exchange, which is, I think, what Vicky Parnell was shown too. A report came on the TV saying a new man was coming to power and he had started the money exchange. They were saying how great he was, and I knew it was the Antichrist. Then the scene changed. All of a sudden, I'm in a large parking garage and watch a man walk by with a small entourage. He was 6'4", his body build was lean strength, similar build to Obama. He was wearing a brown suit and his skin tone was brown. Now that's important because the Bible says in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let a thing be established. So if they're not agreeing, then we have to wonder if we want to listen, and they are agreeing. Darker than Middle Eastern skin, but not as dark as a tone as in India, as in like from India. Now, let me refresh your memory. This is what Ken Peters and Maurice Sklar said, which is coming straight out of my book, Miss the Mark. The beast will be the most handsome, most beautiful, most intelligent man in human history. The book of Daniel says his look is more stout than his fellows. Stout means great or abundant. Daniel also says he has a fierce countenance, meaning a strong, fierce, mighty, or powerful look. Ken Peters said he had olive-colored skin and was the most beautiful man he'd ever seen. Maurice Sklar saw him and said he was the most handsome or most beautiful man I've ever seen. So now we have 3 people saying dark skin, extremely handsome. Back to Jason Meeks' dream. I've never seen skin tone exactly like his. Also, I only saw him from his left side. He had facial hair and hair appearance, the very young and attractive actor similar to Louis Jordan. And I looked up and got his picture there. His presence was commanding. He had a fierce countenance, not because he was built like a bodybuilder, but because he gave off an air of total control. He was not so much physically imposing, but somehow mentally and psychologically imposing, and very handsome, and well put together. His hair, suit, all seemed perfect, but not feminine, kind of hard to properly describe. I knew things just got rough. Then the scene changed. All of a sudden, we leave the hotel room and arrive at a training camp. No one is there. The Patriot is gone. His equipment is still there, but somehow in the dream, I know that the bad guys got him just that quick. He was gone. He would never left without his equipment somehow in the dream. I knew the church would have to rely only on Jesus. Now the point there is, you're not going to rely on training, you're not going to rely on your woodsmanship and things like that, knowing how to sling an axe or something like that. Okay, you got to depend on Jesus. I knew the church would have to rely on Jesus only to survive. That was the only way forward. Jesus all the way, or follow the Antichrist and take the mark. No in between. This was it. The dream was jarring. Everything changed in an instant without warning, like someone just flipped a switch. That quick. The total control of the system cannot be fully explained. I knew my family was safe, but this world system will make the COVID lockdowns look like a picnic on the beach on a sunny day. How could one man exert that much absolute control and power? Well, we're probably not too far from finding out. He said, this is not just a man. It is also a system that is even now being put into place. It is like the man was the system, and the system was the man. Very jarring, disturbing, and difficult to fully articulate the total oppressiveness of that atmosphere. Now let's jump to Byron Surley. Brand new one from Byron. 2/11/2023. My son, the darkness I've spoken about is soon coming to the mystery Babylon. That would be America. This is not the 3 days of darkness coming to the whole world, but a permanent darkness to the land of America. I believe this has to do with electricity or the grid going down. I say now, there will be 3 events that will cause this darkness. Same thing, I think, a week ago from Henry Groover, read the same thing. He saw an EMP pulse, all the electricity went out, then they hit us with the nukes. I say now, there will be 3 events that will cause this darkness. The first event on the western states. Second event, central states. Third event, eastern states. And I'm about to read something from Maury Sklar that says exactly the same thing. Look, again, I've been doing this stuff, Bible prophecy, for 40 years. Radio TV programs since 1993. 160 guest speakers, making 330 DVDs. I've made, 37 myself? I've never seen God talking this much. Never, ever, ever. In the 1999 area, just before Y2K, when a lot of people were saying, oh, the computers are going to freeze up, we're going to starve to death. God was saying nothing. Nothing. No one was getting any dreams or visions, save Dimitri Duduman, and then it was like maybe 1 a month. We thought that was a whole lot. I'm getting stuff daily. Some people are getting daily dreams and visions. I mean, I've never seen God talking this much. Okay, let's go on. Maurice Sklar says the EMP attack knocks out electronics. He said, then I saw 3 giant rocket missiles. I'm going to read this again here in just a second. I'm just pointing this out to tie together. I saw 3 giant rocket missiles that took off into the air. 2 came out of the ocean, 1 came out of the land, traveled a great distance. All of them blew up in the air, 1, 2, 3, in the upper atmosphere within 5 minutes of each other. Now let's go back to what Byron said. These 3 events will cause all the power grids to fail. And I'm suggesting you go to solarsurge.net. I want to make certain you get that .net. Solarsurge.net. Joe's a good friend of mine, longtime supporter and friend of Prophecy Club. He's the one that helped me get my solar system from my house, which I love, and he can help you get one. But I can tell you right now, it takes a while. You can't call it one day and next week it's installed. It may take 60, 90 days, maybe longer, There's a lot of approvals, a lot of things to be done to put in a solar system. So yeah, I'd suggest you start now. Solarsurge.net. Okay, so anyway, these three events will cause all the power grids to fail. Some people will see the explosions, but most will not. Most people will be unaware of the event and will think it is only temporary. My son, this event is coming very, very soon and will catch all by total surprise. Remember, Byron, I think a couple of days ago I put on there, he said, surprise, surprise, surprise. And then you look at Michael Boldea, he said that he saw that the second snake attack came from an unexpected direction. Well, EMP from the sky would be pretty unexpected. So anyways, my son, this event is coming very, very soon and will catch all by total surprise. While the nation is in darkness, the evil men who control the government will enact laws to stop all movement and gathering of people. For 1 week, the nation is in utter chaos. Looting and murders will abound. My children will try to form groups, but do not succeed. Many perish. My son, this is the time that my prophets and watchmen have been warning about. They have shouted, repent and be braced. Of course, that be braced, that's a lot of times Cornerstone says that. During this time, the American dollar will collapse. We've got like 14 different people said that. Street gangs will rule the big cities. The military will collapse except for those in hardened bunkers. This word is the final warning on this matter. Do not ask when, but ask, Lord, am I ready? This event will be a total surprise. No one will be expecting it, my son. Much death will happen within the first 3 months. After that, the armies of the north will move in and the captivity will begin. I say now to my children, do not fear, trust in me. I will keep those safe, just as I did Noah and his family during the time of darkness. Continue to shout, repent to the lost. Now will be the time of the great harvest. Now let's jump to Maurice Sklar. Now, I've had Maurice Mahone a couple of different times. I've hugged his neck, and also his now gone to be with the Lord wife. And we've had him a speaker at 2 different of our crusades. So I know Maurice. And matter of fact, he's prophesied to me and Leslie on 2 different occasions. He's been right on. I know he hears from God. March 15, 2014. I saw a huge angel standing suspended in the air over New York Harbor. It looked so large that it covered the night sky. His body was clad in golden armor as if he was going to war. His face and entire being were so bright, I could not gaze up for him long. White beams of light seemed to radiate out from him in all directions. He was standing over the Statue of Liberty. It was night, but I could hardly see the lights around him coming from New York City as he blazed so brightly with divine light. He reached for his belt that was covered with a red sash around his midsection and drew out his sword. It was so massive. It blazed with light and fire all around it. It looked at least 100 foot long. I've never felt such fear when I saw an angel before. I just knew this mighty warring spirit had authority from the very throne of God. He had a grim expression as he held this mighty sword over his head with both hands. I could see that he was poised to hit the Statue of Liberty and cleave it in two. I trembled and tried to hide, but the angel was looking directly at me, and I knew there was nowhere to go that he would not see me. Then he spoke. His voice was like thunder and echoed throughout the whole harbor, and he said, "How long will you refuse to humble yourself, O America?" Now remember, this is 2015. And apparently, according to what Vicky Parnell was told and a couple others, God has already made the decision to divorce America, and the decision has already been made for America to be destroyed. But this is back in 2015. How long will you refuse to humble yourself, O America? You have been weighed in the balances of God and found wanting. Your beginning was great and noble, but your end shall be is disgrace and destruction. Thus saith the Lord of heaven's armies, the Lord of hosts, time is running out. Now, the prophecies say, time is run out. The bowels of my wrath are full of fury and judgment. They shall be poured out upon you. You shall drink them down to the dregs, every drop. I have come to you day and night, pleading with you. Same thing Vicky Parnell was told. Pleading with you to come to me day and night, to return to me for over 100 years. I am merciful and long-suffering. It brings me no joy to judge you. But you have hardened your hearts, scoffed at my warnings through my prophets and my holy servants. I brought you from nothing and exalted you, O America, higher than any other nation. But now you have fallen lower than Sodom. You have sinned greater than Egypt. You have become prouder than Babylon and Persia. You have become more selfish than Rome. You have exalted yourself in your own wisdom higher than Greece. You have more idols and high places of idolatry and luxury than any Gentile kingdom in human history. Your beginning was pure and great, but now the stench of your sin and filth fills my nostrils. I shall cut you in pieces, and you shall reap the harvest of wrath from what you have sown. You shall no longer be the queen of nations. Remember Revelation 18? I said, a queen and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death, mourning, and famine. And she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. See, it's the same Spirit that said this that also wrote it in Revelation 18. You have sown. You have no longer be the queen of nations. You shall now bear your shame and become the lowest of the heathen nations. Now as Agag, you shall be hacked in pieces, O earth, 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 hear ye the word of the Lord. Then, to my horror, that massive sword came smashing down on Lady Liberty. When it hit the top of her head, there was a blinding flash of light, and that sword split her in two right down the middle. Then the sword came again and again against her. It divided her in pieces. As the sword would finish each strike, fires would burst forth. I heard the terrible explosions. The vision of the statue ended with an earthquake. What, we have 14 different prophecies about an earthquake coming? An earthquake as it was hacked in pieces and sunk into the harbor. I was weeping and crying out of God for mercy. Never have seen this side of God before. I had only known the love and goodness of him. Never had I seen the wrath of the Almighty. Then, as I was watching from a zoomed-in close-up, the dream shifted and I started to zoom outward from New York Harbor and started traveling in the air over America. What I saw was horror beyond anything I have ever seen. I saw the United States, listen carefully, other prophets have seen the same thing. I saw the United States seem to crack in two with a great giant earthquake, right down the middle. What do we got? I don't know, 18 different prophecies saw the same thing? I saw the southeastern United States covered with a giant wave of water from the ocean. I think the count is up to either 12 or 14. We've got, that has seen the same thing. I saw a massive earthquake that just seemed to crack off the coast of California. It reminded me of a saltine cracker that just cracked in two. The great cities, listen carefully, the great cities along the west coast just fell into the ocean, all the way from Mexico up into Alaska. 2 Chronicles 20:20 says, believe God's prophets, and so shall you prosper. If I lived in California, I'd be on my face asking God if I need to move, show me where I need to move. For that matter, anybody in America needs to be asking God if we need to be moving. Let's go on. The great cities all along the west coast just fell into the ocean all the way up from Mexico to Alaska, and giant waves flooded inland until much of the west coast just wasn't there. There's, I don't know, at least 12, 14 people seeing the same thing. It had disappeared into the Pacific Ocean. Then I saw three giant, now here's the point that I want to make. I saw three giant rocket missiles that took off into the air. Two came from out of the ocean and one came from land and traveled a great distance. All of them blew up in the air, 1, 2, and 3, in the upper atmosphere, within 5 minutes of each other. It was out near space. In other words, these are not nuclear weapons designed to burn and blow up things. These are nuclear weapons designed to send out a great EMP, an electromagnetic pulse that fries all of the computer chips. This blinds America, and just this would send America back 100 years. I mean, we'd be back in the days of the farmers dragging a plow with a horse. It was out near outer space. There were terrible nuclear bombs, but the last one was the biggest, and it created a huge mushroom cloud over the Midwest part of America. Then the ground shook and everything just went black. Why? Because the electrical grid went down. There wasn't any electric light coming out of any of the homes. Now, that's the reason I would suggest you go to EMPShield.com. Promo code PROPHECY. EMPShield.com, promo code PROPHECY. It's a little device about the size of a cigarette package. Stick it under your hood, hook it onto the battery. It took me about 10 minutes. And they have another about the same size. You stick onto your, what do you call that? The fuse box, and that protects your house. I suggest strongly that you go there. Look at, it's not just losing your computers. It's losing anything that has a computer chip in it. Yeah, your TVs, your refrigerators, anything in your house has a computer chip. If you want your cars to start when no one else car starts, matter of fact, if you got electronic key these days, you want to be able to open your car. That is, unless you have a mechanical key. There wasn't any electric light coming out of the homes. Then candles began to light fires, and a little light was seen. There were other nuclear explosions, and many people perished throughout the nation. There was just twisted metal, charred debris in cities that once were tall and majestic. There was widespread looting, and gangs roaming everywhere with guns. We've heard that many times before. Stealing whatever food and supplies they could find. Then I saw what looked like elite riot police by the thousands go into the communities and even cities and forced the people out of their homes and brought into what looked like concentration camps. Oh, not in America. Oh, yes. We're not America anymore. We are now Babylon. Some, but not all of these police armies had light blue helmets on. What would that be? That would be our friends at the United Nations. See, they understand that Americans might not want to treat Americans so harshly, but someone from another nation, brought in by the UN, not a problem, they'll do it. Some, but not all of these police armies had blue helmets on. Hundreds of thousands of people were arrested in this way. Many would not cooperate, so they were simply shot, left dead in their homes. And I know there's at least one other person, a lady, that saw that too. But there were millions of hidden groups that escaped the first wave of these terrible disasters. Now listen, remember what the Lord told me, as the judgment hits, so will my miracles. Miracles like no one has seen, going all the way back to Adam and Eve. That's what he's saying too. After the first wave of these terrible disasters, revival broke out. Great evangelists and prophets and apostles rose up and began to preach to thousands outdoors. And many were saved and were born again. Miracles of provision, multiplication of food and water, and astonishing healings occurred. Millions of people cried out to God, and he heard and answered. I knew this was not happening in America, but this was the great tribulations upon them. And all over the world, these calamities were also taking place. I saw multitudes of tribulation saints refusing to renounce Jesus as Lord. They were starving, many of them, but still refused to take the stamp on their bodies so that they could eat and live. There was what looked like these kiosks that were in every little town. They advertised food and water, but only if you went inside them and took the electronic mark. Some went in, bowed down to the holographic image of the Antichrist, and were branded in their hands and foreheads with electronic tattoo-like stamp. When they came out, if they came out, they had a zombie-like look. Their minds and souls were gone. It looked like these had a spiritual lobotomy. Then these immediately joined the armies of those police units and were given weapons after they fed and drank and rested in the kiosk. There were like robots doing the Antichrist's bidding. I knew that they were lost forever, but quite a few did not make it out. They were tortured mentally and physically inside the kiosk thing, but if they still refused the mark of the beast, there was a laser that shot through their brain and heart and sliced their heads off. Then they were immediately incinerated and nothing but ashes remained. This was the most terrifying part of all. It made the Nazi death camps look like a picnic, if that's possible. Millions of people were executed in this way via computer systems automatically with such precision and efficiency that I marveled that something like this was even possible and could take place on such a large scale. The technology was more advanced than I'd ever seen. I believe we're coming into a time of great technology, advanced technology, off-world technology. Then I was back looking at the terrible angel of the Lord, and he said, warn everyone, flee from the wrath to come. Repent and turn to Jesus while you still can. Pray that you may escape these things that are shortly to happen and to stand in the presence of the Lord. That's not saying there's a pre-trib rapture. That's saying that maybe you can escape taking the mark of the beast, losing your head. These things are about to take place. Turn to God and cry out for mercy. Come into the ark of salvation before the doors of grace close, and it is too late. So brothers and sisters, I suggest you do several things, but get yourself prepared. Let's talk about Joseph's Kitchen. I actually cooked this loaf of bread you're seeing here. Takes me about 10 minutes to put the ingredients together, put it into a bread machine, push a button, 2 hours, 20 minutes later, I get a loaf of bread out like that. Now, if you cut that loaf of bread that weighs about 3 pounds, the loaves you get in the store have most of the good stuff removed. The loaves you get in the store are about a pound. That's 3 pounds because it's got the good stuff still in it. Cut that into 14 slices, and if I eat a slice in the morning and the afternoon, I'm satisfied. So on that basis, one loaf can sustain, I didn't say it's everything we want, can sustain one person for a week. Based upon that, it'll get you excellent nutrition. It tastes good, long storage life, 10 minutes to combine the ingredients, 2 hours, 20 minutes to make it. Other wheat that you order arrives in paper bags, which means bugs, rice, humidity can get a hold of it and ruin it. But at Joseph's Kitchen, they send it out in 100 mil thick buckets. Gives you long shelf life. It's stackable. It's nitrogen infuses that hopefully gives it much longer shelf life, kills bugs and things like that. Easily resealable, keep in a climate-controlled area. And they have it in stock. This is a picture, an actual picture of part of the warehouse. Here's another picture of these. Actually, each one of those boxes holds 2,500 pounds of wheat. And I think they've got 54 of those boxes, a bunch of them. So Joseph's Kitchen can ship it to you right now. You go to most of these places, they say out of stock. So here's what you want to do. Everybody needs to get a machine package. These are the things that you need to grind the wheat berries. Put them into a grinder. 30 seconds later, you have flour. You put that into the bread machine along with 6 other ingredients. Push about 2 hours, 20 minutes later, you have a nice hot loaf of whole wheat bread. Then you have to decide how much food you want. You want food 2 people 1 year, 4 people 1 year, 6 people 1 year. And if you want to make certain you have it when the electricity goes down, you can also get yourself a solar generator, all at josephskitchen.com. josephskitchen.com. Terry Saka of CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. So why should people call you today?
Well, we were a unipolar world where the dollar dominated world reserve currency. Now we are a multipolar world where Russia, China, and commodities are going to dominate. And with Russia now moving to a petrogold, this is the time we need to protect our assets with our own gold and silver and not the US dollar.
Absolutely. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. Give them a call, start a dialogue, open an account, start visiting, and decide what's best for you and your family. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com.